Hey ladies, welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for clicking onto this one. Dan Frampton here, and today we're going to be talking about all the different kinds of people that you'll find at a hardcore show. Now there's a whole bunch, it's a whole rainbow's worth of people at the hardcore show, and we're going to go through every single one of them. And not only are we going to break down these personality types, not only are we going to look at the different kinds of clashes that we see at the hardcore show, we're gonna tier rank them on this handy dandy neat little tier list. So I got like 22 kinds of people that we find at hardcore shows. We're gonna start here with the bartenders, and as I bring up these kinds of people, we're just gonna plop them down here in pretty chill until we find their final destination. Now bartenders do not care about the show that they are at. It's like the last place they want to be because they're just working and they want to like not be at work, you know? So actually, because of their attitude toward the whole show, because they don't really want to be there, they're like perpetually annoyed, and every time they get like a drink order, they don't want to do it. And because of all that, they're legends. You gotta love the bartenders at the bars. Okay, we're gonna keep it with the people doing their job, but these are people hired by the promoter and not hired by the venue. These are the door people. Now door people, they're just checking tickets, putting bracelets, stamping your arm, you know, that kind of thing. They're fulfilling a very, very crucial duty to the show. And depending on what show you're at, you know, these could be any kinds of different kinds of people, but mostly they're pretty chill. So I'm just gonna leave them right here on the pretty chill tier. Okay, next, let's bring up the lifers. These are the people that have been in the hardcore scene for decades, and they're not going away anytime soon. This is their life, they are lifers. And to be honest with you, I don't know, that's kind of cringe. But you know what's even worse than cringe? You know what's actually the worst? Nazis. I don't know why Nazis started going to punk shows, started going to hardcore shows, started to go to skinhead shows. They don't belong, they're the worst. Why are they even here? Let's just take them off the list completely. Okay, next we're gonna bring up the merch slinger. This person is typically hired by the band to sit at the merch table and sell their t-shirts, sell their pins, sell their buttons, you know, do that whole merch slinging thing, which is very, very crucial to how the bands make their actual money on the road. So because they have such an important job, they have to make those numbers, they have to sell those units, so they have to be approachable, they have to be chill by nature. You're gonna wanna have a pretty awesome person over there at the merch table. So typically, you're gonna find a pretty based individual at the merch table. And if not, you're probably at a pretty shitty show. Okay, next we're gonna start getting into these titles that I got from the End It music video at the very beginning for the song called Hate Keeper. If you're not familiar, you should definitely check it out, but I'm gonna pull these up one at a time, starting with the 3-year tours. Now what this sounds like is a band that has been on tour for 3 years, but that is not what this is. Do not get it twisted. A 3-year tour is a guy in the military doing a 3-year tour. I don't necessarily want to disrespect people fighting for people's freedoms, but I grew up in a military household, and I'll tell you right now, it was pretty cringe. All right, this next term I'm very familiar with. This is also a wrestling term. Marks. You'll see marks everywhere at shows. These are people that basically believe the hype. They're there for the bands. They look up to the bands. They'll give the band any amount of money if the band says they need this amount of money, you know? So you want to take advantage of the mark. So typically at a circus in like the 1920s, as people were walking into the tent, the guy taking the tickets would literally mark them with chalk so then the performers knew who the fucking suckers were. So that term still exists. But marks today are kind of the lifeblood of wrestling and hardcore. So for that, marks are actually kind of based. But definitely who's not based, but there is a clear distinction between the mark and a mark-ass trick. A mark is someone who just like believes the hype, you know, they're kind of gullible little showgoers, but mark-ass tricks are people that do fucked up shit to fuck with your shit. They'll key your car, they'll fucking puncture your bike tires, they'll take your skateboard. They're mark-ass tricks, and they're the worst. Okay, next up is line steppers, and they'll be found mostly at the merch table because they'll be stepping all over all sorts of social lines over there, okay? The merch person is being nice, they're being friendly, they're being welcoming, they want to sell some things. So these line steppers think that that means that they've got a new best friend. So now they're asking for like social media contact. Hey, what's your Twitter? Hey, what's your Instagram? Hey, you know, you're stepping on all sorts of lines. Get the merch, get out of here, and I need to bring in another mark. So line steppers, they're not really the worst, but they are kind of cringe. All right, we gotta talk about the sound guy. Now from show to show, you're gonna get a different type of sound guy. Sometimes they're hired by the promoter, other times they're just like the venue sound person. But if you're nice to the sound guy will be nice to you. And if they make your band sound nice and sweet, then they're pretty chill. But you know who's not chill? Dick riders. And the whole scene is infected with dick riders. Dick riders absolutely everywhere. People just want to impress the cool bands. They're the worst. All right, we're going to talk about the pusher. Now, the pusher isn't someone pushing drugs onto people. They're people literally pushing you around in the mosh pit. That is their style of moshing. They're the pusher. They're not chill. They're actually kind of cringe. The kind of slammer that's based is just your general slammer. They're not just pushing. You know, they're doing some windmills, they're jumping around, they might be slamming indie a little bit, they might be punching the floor. Slammers are way cooler than pushers. But the slam dancers above all of those guys are the stage divers. Stage divers are legends. When we talk about fresh cuts, it sounds like we're at a deli, but indeed we're just talking about skinheads. Depending on where you're at, depending on what kind of show you're at, and if they are not the Nazi type of fresh cut, they can be pretty chill. We spoke earlier about pushers who weren't pushing drugs. Now let's talk about dealers who most certainly are dealing drugs. Dealers don't care about the bands, they don't care about the venue, they just care about their bottom line. So they're out there being nice, they're making a lot of friends. Dealers are actually kind of legends. When you hear the word skeezer, it makes you think that they're the worst because of the word skeezer. But the skeezer is just like a person with low morals, you know? They're out there kind of doing whatever, they're having sex with whoever, they're doing any kind of drug. They're, you know, they're skeezers. And I don't know, most of the time skeezers are pretty chill. In the 80s and 90s, haters weren't so prevalent, but now in the 2000s, 2010s, 2020s, you know, in the last 20 to 30 years, haters are everywhere. Message boards, social media. There used to be just zines back in the day, but now you can spread that hate all over the place. And haters, even though it sounds like they're hating everything, are actually kind of based. You gotta love a hater. And I should know, I have one or two, because I happen to be what they think is a keyboard warrior. Somebody who just sits behind a keyboard and spouts nonsense that they wouldn't spout in real life. And to be honest, that's kind of exactly what I do. This isn't the real life Dan Frampton channel. No, this is me cranking it up to 1 million, and for some reason, it's ruffling some people the wrong way. And I'm pretty chill, so I'm putting keyboard warriors, even though it sounds like a cringe thing to be, it sounds like the worst thing to be. Yeah, I gotta be honest, you know, I guess being a keyboard warrior is the worst, but I'm having a lot of fun doing it. Now, since the beginning of shows, there have always been posers. People who just go to the show because they want to be seen going to the show. They want to be seen wearing the merch and looking like a punk, looking like a hardcore kid in the right place, so people are like, hey, look at that punk over there. And posers are the worst. Just do your thing. Who cares, man? Like, I went to shows looking like the most normal-ass, dork-ass person, and it didn't make me any less interested in the culture or any less a part of the culture, even though some people might see it that way. All right, now the final 2 types of people that you'll find at a show, at least on this list. I know this is not comprehensive. This isn't every kind of person at the shows. But you can't talk about the show without the person promoting the show. Now, promoters are typically scumbags. They're typically greedy, lazy-ass, motherfucker, capitalistic pieces of shit. And that's the worst. I don't like promoters. And I don't think that's going to surprise anybody by me saying that. But right there beside the promoter, and I know it's going to look pretty bad, is the bands themselves. The bands are the worst. Now, I understand you can't have a show without the bands. Lord knows, I've been in bands that played shows, and I was the worst. Bands are late. Bands think they are entitled to any kind of thing. Band people are the fucking most intolerable kinds of shitheads in the whole world. Yes, you're living like a goddamn hobo on the road, but when you show up to the venue, all of a sudden you're rock star supreme. It's absolutely ridiculous, and most bands fall into this whack-ass mentality. And especially if you're like a cool hardcore band, if you have a lot of hype behind you, goddamn, you rock up to the shows like you are the most cocky, egotistical pieces of shit in the whole fucking world. Now, I understand you put on great shows, you write tight songs, and people go crazy for you, but you happen to be the worst people in this room right now. And it really doesn't look like I have to do any rearranging. This is like pretty good top to bottom. Bartenders are the best people at the shows, and the bands are the worst. Well, I hope you enjoyed that tier list. If you did, like and subscribe, and until my next upload, watch another upload.